Welcome to a third edition of Baseball Preseason Couch Talk. This week we're going to focus on the AL East, and this will actually wrap up the AL as a whole, to where next week we'll be able to tell you something about the NL West. We'll start here at number 5 with the Tampa Bay Rays. And I don't like using this term a whole lot, but I think that this fits this team more than anyone in recent memory, and I'm just going to say tanking. And I'm going to leave my explanation of that.
Yeah, I'm going Tampa at the bottom of this division this year at number 5. They really just don't have a good roster. They designated for assignment Corey Dickerson, an all-star from last year. Traded away Longoria, traded away Odorizzi. I feel like they're about to just kick full rebuild. They still have Chris Archer, obviously. But, that's really the only player I feel like that's going to make a difference. Kevin Kiermaier, maybe. But, yeah, I still have them finishing 5.
Yeah, I also have the Rays finishing last. Like you guys were saying, they traded away a lot of their talent. Chris Archer's he's still a really good pitcher. He's just but he might struggle on a team that's not very good since they traded away all those players.
Yeah, in the 4-hole, I have the Baltimore Orioles. This is a team that showed a lot of promise just a few seasons ago, but I really do think they missed their window. I think by the All-Star break, Machado will not be playing for the Orioles anymore. They have some young talent coming up that can be good, that can help them do a quick turnaround, but I think this year is not going to be very bright for the fans up there in Baltimore.
Yeah, I also put the Orioles at 4th just because they're still rebuilding a little bit after doing decently a couple years ago. So I think that they're just going to end up in the 4th spot.
Yeah, I am with Baltimore on this at 4. Again, I feel like Hudson said they kind of missed their opportunity in recent years. They've had some good lineups. They still have a decent lineup. Still have Machado, Adam Jones, Chris Davis with a C, not a K, and Jonathan Shoup, who I feel like is probably, I'm going to say a top 10 second baseman in the league, if not higher. But I agree with you. I feel like Manny Machado will not be on this team by the All-Star break, by the trade deadline. There's definitely a contender out there somewhere that's going to easily try to get him. So, yeah, that's why I have him finishing 3 as well. Or 4, sorry.
Yeah, the 3-hole, this is where I really think the AL East gets very interesting. I have the Blue Jays here. I think this team is really, really good, just not quite good enough in a very tough division. They still have a good rotation who's starting to be led by Marcus Stroman, who's a guy I really like after watching him in the WBC last year. They've still got Donaldson and Tulo. And Smoke had a huge breakout year. So they've still got a lot of big-name power, and then they've got some big-time prospects when you talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who could be one of the best players in baseball in just another season or two, if not making it up this year as a 19-year-old. And mind you, he hasn't played in Double or Triple A yet, but he just looks like he's that good. And then you've got Bo Bichette over there at shortstop. So this could be a really good team. I just don't think they're quite good enough to move into the top 2 spots in this division.
Yeah, I also am going to keep the train rolling. Going with Toronto at 3. Obviously have one of the top players in baseball, one of my fantasy keepers this year, Josh Donaldson. I still think he's a guy that's going to hit and get his numbers. They added, Curtis Granderson this season. I feel like his numbers could help them possibly move up, but I'm still going to keep them at 3. But also they have a good rotation. and a young rotation at that. So I feel like this is a team to look for also in the future as well.
Yep. No.
Yeah,
my bad.
I'm going to go with Toronto as well at 3. Like you guys were saying, they have a lot of strong pieces in the lineup, but because of the other 2 teams in their division, I think that they're still going to finish in 3rd.
Yeah, moving into number 2, and I just want to point out that this is the first time that we've gotten through the bottom 3 spots and all agreed. So we're on the verge of history here, guys. But at number 2, this is where we might get a lot of hate from a lot of fans out there, or at least to me. I'm going to go with the Yankees. Even after a huge move to go and get the NL MVP, I just feel like this is a team that's going to put up a lot of runs, but their rotation is good, but not elite. And they remind me a lot of the 2013 Braves. I think like that year's Braves, they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to win a lot of games by 6-7 runs, but they're also going to lose quite a few games by 1 run, and they might not even put up a run in a lot of games. And for that reason, I'm going to have to slow them down to the number 2 spot in the East.
I also put the Yankees at 2. Even with them getting Stanton, now that I have Stanton and Judge, I think they're going to strike out a ton. And I agree that they're going to lose a lot of close games, maybe like 3-1 or 2-1 or something like that, where they just don't have it that night and they can't even like manufacture runs. And I think a lot of their runs will come from like power, like big doubles or home runs or something like that. That's why I have them at 2 as well.
Again, I've got to keep the trend rolling on this. I've got New York at 2. A lot of people are going to say that we all collaborated on this before and made it to where this one was going to be the same, but trust me, we didn't. But yeah, I have the same feeling about this lineup with a lot of strikeouts. I feel like it's going to be one big key to hurting this lineup. You got, with adding Stanton, you got 2 guys that are 2 of the top guys that strike out in the league. But then again, I mean, they are 2 of the biggest power hitters in the league, so it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. Their rotation still doesn't really strike me as like outrageously great. They lost Michael Pineda, so that's one thing that kind of hurts them, I think. Still, I think they could compete for that number 1 seed or number 1 spot in the division. I just, again, like y'all have said, they're going to win a lot of blowouts. They're going to lose a lot of close ones.
So, looks like we're going to have a clean sweep, top to bottom here for us all, with the number 1 spot going to the Boston Red Sox. For me, this is kind of an old school team, not focused on the home runs. Really great pitching staff with Chris Sale last year getting 300 strikeouts. I expect more of the same from him. I expect a bounce back year from Price, and really that rotation's really good. And the lineup's really good, and it's gotten better with getting a full season out of Rafael Devers and then J.D. Martinez moving there and taking over that DH role to fill in kind of where Big Papi was. Not that he's going to be anywhere near as good as Big Papi, but he's going to fill out that role very nicely, in my opinion.
I've got Boston at number 1. Adding J.D. Martinez, that's just a great move for them. Just adding more, just bolstering this lineup a little bit more. Another great pitching staff in the league. Chris Sale, David Price, that's just a nasty 1-2 combo. A few other players that just are, I feel like we're going to have great seasons. Mookie Betts, obviously, one of the best outfielders in the league. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. He's one of the guys I had in fantasy last year, and I'd like to get back this year. I'm not keeping him, unfortunately, but I think they're a strong team. I feel like if anybody out of the 2 other than the Astros that can compete at the American League Championship level, I feel like Boston's right there.
Yeah, I have Boston finishing 1, but I do think it's going to be really close. Last year, it was a 2-game. only won the division by 2 games. I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say that Boston and New York will go into the last game of the season tied, and Boston will win by 1 game in this division. But they also had a disappointing playoffs. They lost 3-1 to the Houston Astros. So I think they're going to use that to get back to the playoffs and possibly beat the Astros.
Yep. So I'm really surprised that we went same from top to bottom, but that's cool. First tier. So that'll wrap up our AL East and wrap up our AL as a whole. So please leave us any feedback you want. Hate us. Give us some pats on the back, whatever you want to do. And tune in next week when we start our NL.